So is this why Mark Zuckerberg has cozied up to Donald Trump? Is it because he could lose his company in this major antitrust action? Let's discuss. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman, here on Legal AF. This is the week that the United States government is going after Meta, a.k.a. Facebook. This is an antitrust case that has been simmering for a while and perhaps is the reason why Mark Zuckerberg has decided to abandon his social causes in exchange for being a true believer in MAGA world. Well, maybe he's not a true believer, but he's sure playing one. The United States is preparing to challenge Meta's social media dominance because this is the week that federal lawyers are going to face off against Meta in this landmark antitrust case. Now, I know antitrust may make people's eyes glaze over, but this is really important and also kind of interesting because this involves whether Meta, aka Facebook, illegally squashed the competition by buying Instagram and WhatsApp. This case scares the bejesus out of Mark Zuckerberg and may have explained his actions. After all, one thing we know about the Trump administration is they are decidedly transactional. But yet, this case is moving forward and going to trial this week. And here's another irony about this case. The judge in this case is none other than U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg, yes, who is public enemy number one for said Trump administration. He's the federal judge who has been blocking Trump's deportation plans, at least until the Supreme Court put the kibosh on it. But James Boasberg, the one who Trump has been blasting on social media, he's the judge in this case, considering the question that if Meta broke the law when it acquired those startups that stood in the way. What startups? Well, again, it's WhatsApp, it's Instagram. According to the New York Times, the case, Federal Trade Commission versus Meta Platforms, will, for the first time, try to stretch theories of U.S. antitrust law to include what regulators are calling a buy or bury strategy. Sort of sounds like the catch and kill strategy that Trump employed when it came to Stormy Daniels. This is buy or bury. Whether Meta broke the law in acquiring nascent competitors to maintain its monopoly in social networking. The FTC argues regulators are seeking to force Meta to divest Instagram and WhatsApp. Meta has countered that it faces ample competition in social media from TikTok, Snap, Reddit, and LinkedIn, and that regulators approved the acquisitions at the time. The company also hasn't given up settling the case. Early this month, Mr. Zuckerberg was at the White House to try to persuade the Trump administration to avert a trial. Well, it didn't work. This trial is moving forward, and it should be a multi-week trial. It's the first major tech case prosecuted by the Trump administration, and as the New York Times said, it could reshape the U.S. antitrust landscape as companies face intense scrutiny over mergers and acquisitions. Still, the FTC faces an uphill battle to prove its case, and that's because the government's legal argument hinges on showing that Meta would not be as dominant, it would not have stayed as dominant if it hadn't acquired Instagram and WhatsApp. That's a really difficult thing to prove because Facebook has boomed in popularity, has a huge market value, because it's the platform that everyone used, at least for a time, until all these new competitors came about. It's still the platform that your uncle and grandparents used to spread misinformation, especially now that Zuckerberg has changed his policies over the guarding of or at least the limiting of misinformation, the fact-checking. Under the Trump administration, he's allowing these things to go relatively unchecked. That was a way to try to ingratiate himself with the MAGA world, but still, as a lot of people learn when you try to suck up to the MAGA world, loyalty is often a one-way street. And when it comes to Zuckerberg, he may just benefit from the fact that the government has an uphill climb because you got to show that Facebook wouldn't have been as dominant if it didn't acquire Instagram and WhatsApp. And I don't know. I got to believe that Facebook was going to be dominant for years to come. Did Facebook's growth depend on Instagram, WhatsApp? Maybe to an extent. But according to a former senior official in the antitrust division of the DOJ, this is a crucial test case for whether the antitrust laws can be used to unwind mergers designed to eliminate upstart competition. A win for the government would give consumers more choices and opportunities to switch across social media platforms without having to be on Facebook. So yes, there was an element when they went after Instagram and WhatsApp to try to nip it in the bud early on. But is that an antitrust violation? Is that elimination of competition? Well, to an extent, although as Zuckerberg would say, there were others that are out there, including TikTok. But at the time, TikTok was like nothing. And so what Zuckerberg did was to get the most popular competitor and buy it up. And then WhatsApp and buy it up. Zuckerberg's argument is that, yeah, we bought them up and they were potential competitors, but the regulators approved it at the time. So now you're going to come back years later and force me to go to trial when you guys approved it. So essentially, Mark Zuckerberg is going under the legal theory of no takebacks. Whether it will succeed or not is going to be interesting because the stakes couldn't be higher for the company. I mean, this could lead to the breakup of Meta. And it's not just Meta that is dealing with this. The DOJ has also sued Apple over claims that its tightly knit system of devices and software makes it challenging for consumers to leave. And the FTC has sued Amazon, accusing it of illegally protecting a monopoly in online retail. These cases are expected to go to trial next year. And so I know those guys are going to closely watch this trial because whether the federal government continues to pursue actions against Apple and Amazon, I think perhaps will have a lot to do whether they succeed in going after Meta. Although I must say, as an Apple user, it does seem like it's very hard to leave, right? I mean, they got this whole network, and they got you every month. If you did want to leave and go to the Android platform, not so easy. And that's the basis of the antitrust suit against Apple from the federal government. But this is the kind of thing that doesn't happen very often. In fact, this case originated under the first Trump administration before a handoff in 2021 to a Biden appointee. So this thing's been going on for a long time. And, one thing that seems like both sides of the aisle seem to agree on is that there's been an overconcentration of power in the hands of these tech companies. And for a while, when the tech companies seemed to be supportive of progressive causes, I know that folks on the left didn't have as much of an issue, but now it seems like they are standing in line to pay tribute to Donald Trump. And if you're wondering whether Mark Zuckerberg himself is going to testify, oh yeah, he's expected to be on the stand for hours, including Sheryl Sandberg, who's from South Florida here, and also the founders of Instagram and WhatsApp. So you're going to have a bunch of high-profile individuals. And according to the New York Times, for Meta, even the idea of hiving off Instagram and WhatsApp is alarming. The company bought Instagram for $1 billion in 2012 and WhatsApp for $19 billion in 2014. At the time of the deals, the apps were small. Instagram had just 30 million users and 13 employees, while WhatsApp had 450 million users and 50 employees. Since then, both have become critical to Meta with faster growth and engagement by users than Facebook. And that's the crux of this. Because if they're forced to break up, that's really bad for Meta, because I assume that many of you are like me, and that when I post mostly on Instagram and Blue Sky. I don't do much on Facebook anymore. I think Facebook's a little bit washed, but a lot of people use it. It's just that I prefer Instagram. So if they were forced to do away with Instagram, yeah, that's going to hurt their bottom line. Also, WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp. So there are a lot at stake here. And we'll keep following it here at Legal AF. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Dave Ehrenberg. Same thing for Blue Sky, at Dave Ehrenberg. And you can find me here on Legal AF, aka the Florida Lawman. Thank you for your support. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.